Radio, the 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse.
Talk Radio, give it some lip. This is the sound of the Walker's wedding in Oxford. Only a bouquet's throw away from a Holiday Inn hotel. What are you doing this weekend? It all begins at holidayinn.com.
Give your nephew a buzz cut. Pretty good at haircuts. Open a proper salon. How much is too much shampoo? Chop, wash, chop. Uh-oh. No more chopping for him. Need more hands. Need a bigger salon. Rent next door. Relax until the morning. Direct Line keeps up with your world when you make changes to your staff, stock or location. Change to us and we won't be beaten on price. Can your business insurance do that? Search Direct Line for business.
New customers only, excluding van. Cover on equivalent basis to ours. Qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
When a stroke strikes, the damage spreads like a fire in the brain. When you spot any single one of the signs, think and act fast. F. Face. Has it fallen on one side? A. Arms. Can they raise them? S. Speech. Is it slurred? T. Time to dial 999. The faster you act, the better their chances. So even if you're not sure, act fast. Make the call. Dial 999.
The Maserati story began over 100 years ago. And the philosophy of elegance, luxury and performance continues today. Explore the latest range, including the stylish Levante SUV, at the Maserati Experience Weekend, 13th to 15th of September. With finance available across the range, and up to 3 years free servicing on the 2019 Levante and Ghibli models. Start your story. Find your local dealer at Maserati.com. Participating dealers, conditions apply.
Ah, you're dreaming about your next holiday, not buying a new boiler. We're with you. That's why all our new boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit, expert installation, and a 5-year British Gas warranty. So now you can have a new boiler and a trip to your dream destination. Search British Gas New Boiler. Credit subject to status, conditions apply.
Talk Radio, traffic and travel.
Yorkshire, the A19, both directions between Selby and Doncaster, that remains closed due to an accident. M4 eastbound, junctions 27 at High Cross to 26 Malpass Road. Through the roadworks, traffic looking slow. And in Oxfordshire, the A34 Southern Bypass Road southbound from the Pear Tree interchange towards the Botley interchange. The inside lane's closed by an accident. In Bedfordshire, the M1 southbound junctions 12 to 11A, the inside lane closed by a breakdown. And the A12 in Essex at Beacon End, heavy following an accident earlier on. I'm Stuart Watt.
Frankie's late night breakfast.
I've been going out with Sam for a while now. We met last year. We went out dancing, came home late. I don't know why we hit it off, but I'll tell you when I knew we had. The first time we shared a bowl of baked eggs. Tangy tomato sauce with spinach and chilli. You wait till it's simmering, then bake in the eggs. Delicious. We tucked in at 3 a.m. and he said, "This is the best breakfast I've ever had."
Make your own late night breakfast with our sweet Italian vine-ripened tomatoes. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
Captain Controversy is here. The James Whale Show on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
We'll get back to some calls, I promise, in a little while. But I want to introduce you to our next guest now, who is a fascinating guy. His name is Kevin Crace. He's sitting here in front of you. Looks a bit like Ronnie Wood too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I was thinking that, a bit like Ronnie Wood.
I usually get Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
I usually get
I'll accept Ronnie Wood.
Yeah, we could get him, your mate, as well together, and it would be like we're out with Mick Jagger and Ronnie Wood.
Well, it will actually,
we'll have to do that.
It would, yes.
We just got to find a Jerry Hall, if you don't mind, to team up as
well.
James
You could
looks
do that.
good in a wig, in a long blonde wig.
Oh, shut up! Right, let's get on with this. Now, Kevin's interesting, and before we do anything else, I'm told that you're a leading authority on conspiracy theories, and we're going to talk about the Highgate Cemetery. You want to talk about that because you're interested in that, don't you? But you've also got a theory, haven't you, on the Skripal poisonings?
Well, it's an interesting situation because obviously it's so fluid at the moment. Every moment we're changing the situation. But I think what we can definitively say at the moment is that if you look at the Russian explanation, it makes no sense. But neither does the British explanation. I think that to actually find the truth amongst this.
Well, why doesn't the British one make sense?
Well, it doesn't make sense. I mean, let's have a look at this. This would be... Novichok is allegedly the most poisonous substance there is, okay? And we've got two people who've got better from it.
Yeah, but they were 8 minutes from Porton Down, where they have, your antidotes and all that.
Just move a little
A
closer.
little bit closer. And also, it was 8 minutes from Porton Down, where they have a supply of Novichok.
Well, that's strange, yeah. I mean, that is...
and they actually have, and I was looking at this last night.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
Why were they living near there, I wonder? Because they could have lived anywhere.
Well, he was helping, he might have been helping out with things.
Maybe like the 120-foot spire.
Oh, yeah.
Could be that.
I mean, that's the other thing. They were saying he was doing talks at MI6 and for other people, and if the Russians saw that 'cause he was part of a spy swap, they might go, well, he shouldn't be doing that. It's not part of the deal. Let's bump him off.
But as we've spoken on this programme before, if you want to bump somebody off, there are much easier, cleaner ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it sends a message, doesn't it?
But bumping
It's
him off
too
is-
much of a message.
They normally bump people off when they're, falling down a hole or whatever. But this one was a
Well, we
definite
were just talking before with Chris about Litvienko, and that was, some people said that was a very messy way of doing it as well.
Well, it's a terribly messy way because it leads right back. It becomes so obvious, it becomes unobvious. You
Well,
start...
apparently they thought he might die quicker with that. Because of but it didn't. It just went on too long, and then he was talking. Litvinenko was saying it, wasn't he? Putin's done this.
Let's have a matter of interest. Let's just listen to these two who were talking on Russia Today a little earlier.
There's the famous Salisbury Cathedral, famous not only in Europe, but in the whole world. It's famous for its 123-meter spire. It's famous for its clock, the one of the first ever created in the world that's still working.
I didn't even know that.
That all makes sense now that he says that.
It's so crass, isn't it? It's so crass that you actually have to then start questioning it from the reverse.
Yeah.
Why are you presenting such a crass defence?
Taking the mick, aren't they?
It is. Because at the end of the day, you could actually present and get together a really good defence.
But they always already take the mick, don't they? When they drove that warship through the channel, that was sticking their fingers up, and this is the same thing. He's doing exactly
on one
the same
level, but you have to start to look at things from Russia's perspective as well, which isn't really done in the West. Russia is very frightened of the West at the moment. We've moved up to their borders. NATO has moved actually to the very borders of Russia. We've got sanctions going on that are really hurting the Russian people, really hurting the Russian government. There's so much. They view us as very aggressive, and this isn't really portrayed in the UK media, how the Russians view us. There is certainly a Russia-phobia going on at the moment.
But he does that, doesn't he, to make sure he shows his people the rest of the world are against us, and they vote for him as a strong man.
On one level, but then it's quite easy to look at how the rest of the world suddenly does target Russia
Well, it is
instantly.
Yeah.
So do you think we're being manipulated then by our own politicians to hate Russia a little more? Is that what you think?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt, there is encouraged Russia-phobia so that we can start to look at future engagements, definitely.
Well, we couldn't engage in war with them. I mean, they've got so much more in the way of military hardware than we have. I mean, it would be futile, wouldn't it?
Well, it depends on how wars of the future go as well. Because
Yeah, but we're NATO, so, we're...
All right,
well,
sit back.
Well, I mean, you're saying we're well up on them. That's not they're up on us. You know what I mean? Apart from everyone's got nukes anyway, so
yeah, but you
can't have a war really.
You have to look cyber war. Look at how effective a cyber war could be. It could be equally as catastrophic as a nuclear war in terms of casualties. Yeah. And certainly we've got that capability. You know, we have that capability.
Well, they're developing it more, aren't they?
So
absolutely.
This is not. You don't think this is clean cut, and these two just happen to be in the. What were they doing in Salisbury? They weren't there just as tourists, though. Were
Okay,
they?
I think you can start to look at an argument, but this is still when I say this with a caveat, this is a very fluid situation that's evolving all the time. But you could start to look at an argument to say that the Skripals were passing the poison across to these guys. Just on the timings, of the events of that day.
Why would they be doing that?
Well, you've got to look. I mean, again, I'm presenting a left field argument here, but Skripal is no friend of Putin. No, he's a friend of the oligarchs that are based in the UK, where we are awash with dirty money.
You're not suggesting they were going to try and take that. I mean, they could get Novichok back in Russia anyway, couldn't they?
But if you picked it up from Portman Down and it's got the same fingerprint as the Russian version of it, and then you used it in Russia, you'd look like a domestic attack rather than a foreign agency, foreign government being involved. Lots of questions to be asked. Let's be honest.
So you thought they might be trying, or the conspiracy theory goes, these guys might have been trying to get this, take it back to Russia and do Putin in?
Or people around Putin, or create a scenario in Russia. You have to also look as well that...
Well, why, in that case, why hasn't Putin, because he might, if he thought like that, those two would be in a very dangerous position, I would have thought.
Possibly, but then you put them into a dangerous... Well, they've already admitted they're in a dangerous position today. Both of them have said that's their opening lines. But if you start talking about, putting them into prison or whatever, then you immediately start to look like they are GRU, Russian security services. So if you don't do that, you defend your own position a lot better.
We talked to our Russian friend the other day, Alexander Nekrasov, who said that the GRU had disbanded 15 years ago. They no longer exist.
Well, let's use the generic then, Russian security services.
So, all right, okay.
But the government announced it as the GRU, you know. Theresa May in Parliament said the GRU.
Yeah, certainly the phrase is still being used regularly.
Yeah, but apparently, as far as the Russians are concerned, they disbanded it 15 years ago. But these conspiracy... I mean, anybody can come up with conspiracy theories. The thing is, we're never really going to know the truth, are we?
No, on this situation, you're really going to struggle because you've got a situation where Russia has no relationship with the UK on an official level. There's no extradition. There's no sharing of information. We wouldn't allow Russia to become involved in this situation. So you're absolutely right. But what I would say, James, and is really important, is that when you use the phrase conspiracy theory, and I like that phrase, it's a useful generic phrase, but it often undermines the argument because once you start digging, so many cases, there are questions to be asked. You know, and once you start labelling things with conspiracy theory, then you can say conspiracy theory nutter or etc.
But do you think Litvinenko was killed by the Russian state? Because that's pretty open and shut.
In all probability, yes. I do.
So why wouldn't this have been the Russian state?
I think you're looking at different scenarios, and as I said, this is so organic at the moment and fluid. It's evolving all the time that it's so early to actually start nailing. I mean, if you remember,
they waited 6 months, but they said they knew within a few days.
Well, you say they waited within 6 months, but I remember within 48 hours, the British government saying this is Novichok. Only Russia can produce Novichok.
Well, apparently they knew the guys as well, but they didn't announce it until a week ago or two.
But you go back to the original thing. Within 48 hours, we were told it was Russia, it was Novichok, only Russia could make it. Now we understand that pretty much anybody can make it who's a chemist.
Well, yeah, that was weird.
That there are 17 countries in the world that have stockpile of it, including the British at Portman Down.
We have a stockpile of it?
We have samples of it. We have samples at Portman Down. Yeah, we do. They've admitted the government.
Just because we'll run out of time, I want to talk to you about a few other things.
Yeah, go for
it. Your recent Opus documentary on the Highgate Vampire, scheduled for completion at the end of this year.
Yep, that's correct.
And a book as well. You hang
out. What is the Highgate Vampire?
Well, I say James has had a nice bit of experience with this himself in the past, but very interesting story, and it's the story of an entity at Highgate Cemetery that was spotted from the 1970s to the present day, and that has a record of having attacked people in one way or another. Now, when I say attacked, I'm not talking about physical...
There's a lot of strange people live around Highgate.
There certainly is.
Yeah. You do, don't you?
Yeah, well, I've been there myself. You know.
But I think the term vampire is a little bit unfair. I think it's an entity would be a fairer...
So could it be an alien?
No. I don't follow the thought on alien. No? I follow the thought on entity. You're looking at an area that has a lot of ley lines running through it.
Does it?
Yeah, it does indeed. Yeah, right from Swains Lane right through, there are noted and recorded ley lines. Now, one of the problems is both these ley lines at either end have been cut. And so, I don't know if you know...
What do you mean cut?
Well, they both have building work done on them, which has actually affected...
Does that affect ley lines?
Yeah, it does indeed. And it can create big problems along ley lines. What it can actually do is create energy that can only bounce backwards and forwards along the same ley line, rather than...
Just explain for me, because I'm a bit stupid, what exactly a ley line is.
Yeah, I don't know what...
well, ley lines are proven ancient lines of energy that run across the country. They were mapped by people from the past. They run around the whole world. And in England, the people in the past tended to map them by placing stones on them, you know, such as Stonehenge runs on a ley line.
But how do you know where they are?
They've been mapped. They were mapped.
Yeah, but how do you map them?
Oh, they were
You
mapped.
can't see them.
Well, they can be picked up by dowsing, which I know opens up a whole new topic there. But they can be picked up by dowsing. But you can actually follow them through ancient sites. So it's a linking of
Glastonbury, I know.
Glastonbury, Avebury, etc. So you can actually link ancient sites and follow a trackway, a non-visible trackway along them, which flows energy. And these
But where does this energy come from then?
Oh, it just floats around the planet. It's just
Does it float around the universe, presumably?
Oh, that's difficult because I don't think anyone's ever gone into ley lines outside of the Earth itself. But certainly within the Earth, there is energies.
And are they created by the movement internally of this planet, or?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I don't think I've ever read a good enough theory on exactly the cause of ley lines, outside of the fact that they are routes of energy.
And if you are susceptible to this sort of energy when you are on a ley line, can you tell?
Well, certainly if you look at magical ritual sites from prehistoric man and ancient man, they are on ley lines. So it tends to view that those ley lines are part of the energy within rituals that are being used.
And so, what has you've made this documentary on it? What sort of conclusions does it come to? And did you actually feel or see any entity while you were making it?
No, I didn't. Although it's still recorded to this day. I think that you've got a number of particular arguments, and the documentary really leaves you with a number of arguments and allows the viewer to make his own position. And it leaves it from everything from being complete and utter Rolly Rollock, for one of a better phrase.
Well, it could be a ghost, couldn't it? I mean, it's a cemetery, a ghost, wouldn't it? People would say it's a ghost or something.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. You can look at that. I mean, you're looking at an entity. You're not looking at a vampire with two fangs who drinks blood. I mean, that's the misnomer of the name.
All right. Listen, we're going to have to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about your involvement with a friend of the Manson family.
Oh, okie doke.
And the fact you brought Ronnie Biggs back to this country to face justice.
I did indeed.
Okay, right after this and more calls.
Across the UK, online and on DAB. Access all radios.
Talk Radio. Give it some lip.
The big story of the day on Talk Radio with The Times. Know your times. Every weekday from 6:30, join Julia Hartley-Brewer for in-depth analysis of the morning headlines. Don't just be informed, be well informed, with fearless debate and in-depth opinion from right across the political spectrum.
Join me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, for the biggest breaking current affairs stories, top guests and razor-sharp reaction.
Get a better quality conversation at breakfast. The big story of the day with Julia Hartley-Brewer on Talk Radio with The Times. Know your times.
For everyone who wants more from their broadband. For everyone who wants to stream box sets day and night. For everyone who wants to listen to their playlists upstairs and down. Switch to Talk Talk. We've got your back. Our totally unlimited fibre comes with our powerful Wi-Fi hub, giving you a Wi-Fi signal that can't be beaten by any of the other big providers. And a guarantee that if you don't love your new fibre, you're free to leave anytime in your first 30 days. And it's 30% off right now. So why wouldn't you switch? Talk Talk. For everyone. 18-month contract conditions apply.
Get up to half-price savings on the Autumn-Winter collection at DFS. And for a limited time, you can also get early bird extra savings on selected sofas. DFS. I know who designed Princess Di's wedding dress. I know who phoned home. I know how to do a silly walk. And I know which part of the room you should never put baby in. But I don't know my state pension.
Find out more about your state pension and how much it should be. Get to know your pension. Visit yourpension.gov.uk.
In this day and age, I shouldn't have to wait ages to receive a new car.
Well, sir, here at Trust Ford Dealerships, the wait is over.
Where's that music coming from?
We've got your back.
Why are you singing?
We've got the power.
I'm not quite sure.
Drive a new car home in an hour.
We can give it to you now.
Where did they come from?
We've made buying a used car even easier. Drive away selected vehicles from Trust Ford Dealerships in under an hour. So to find out how,
visit Trust Ford now.
Visit trustford.co.uk/now for details.
Talk Radio, traffic and travel.
In the Scottish borders, the 703 remains closed between Peebles and Ledburn following an accident earlier tonight. M5 Worcestershire North junctions 5 to 4A. The inside lane's closed by a breakdown, but there's no delays. In Staffordshire, the A50 at the sideway roundabout, it's partially blocked by a broken down vehicle. And in Oxfordshire at Wolvercut, the A34 Southern Bypass roads southbound towards the Botley interchange into Albane is closed with delays because of an accident. Traffic's queued back to the Pear Tree interchange. I'm Stuart Ward.
Frankie's late night breakfast.
I've been going out with Sam for a while now. We met last year. We went out dancing, came home late. I don't know why we hit it off, but I'll tell you when I knew we had. The first time we shared a bowl of baked eggs. Tangy tomato sauce with spinach and chilli. You wait till it's simmering, then bake in the eggs. Delicious. We tucked in at 3 a.m. and he said, "This is the best breakfast I've ever had."
Make your own late night breakfast with our sweet Italian vine-ripened tomatoes. Food love stories, brought to you by Tesco.
Introducing Talk Radio's incredible new super signing, Matthew Wright.
We're going to round off the week in provocative style by asking if victim blaming, wear a short skirt and you're asking for trouble, is always a no-no.
And we'll be looking at what's hot and what's rot at the cinema this weekend. The Matthew Wright Show, putting the world to rights. Tomorrow afternoon from 1 on Talk Radio.
100% whale, 0% blubber.
The James Whale Show on Talk Radio.
Right, welcome back, guys. Last quarter of an hour, if you want to call us, 03444991000. We are talking about all sorts of strange stuff at the moment. We have got some calls. We should go back to 1 or 2 between now and the end of the show. Mal in Belfast says back, he said, "I find it amazing that we found a way to communicate with each other through satellites and digital technology, and I can watch and listen to the world through an unquantifiable ether," says Mal in Belfast. That's right, it's too much for me. Rob, or Bob, from Battersea said, "James, we have tried 45 times to improve EU legislation over the past 40 years, and every time it was vetoed. How many more times would you want to stay in the EU in the hope of succeeding? Try again." Morris says, "Guys, when the pros want someone bumped off in a clean, efficient way, they call him Mr. Bump." Thank you, Morris. Very funny. Most amusing and entertaining. Right, okay. Kevin Grace is with me. Kevin is a leading authority on conspiracy theories, apart from anything else, and a documentary maker. Why did you bring Ronnie Biggs back? How did you get to bring him back?
That's an interesting question. That actually happened purely through coincidence. Really, my background is the music industry, and that's sort of my bread and butter and where I came from. And going back into the hazy sort of late 90s, early 2000s, I met Bruce Reynolds, the mastermind of the Great Train Robbery, via Alan G. Parker, the filmmaker. And Alan introduced me to Bruce. He was making a documentary on him at the time. At that time, I lived in Bromley. Bruce lived down in Croydon, and we got on so well that pretty much most evenings that Bruce would come over to my place, we'd sit down, bottle of wine, talk about the old days, and then it got to a stage where Bruce turned around and said, "Ron wants to come back. I trust you implicitly to do it. Could you organise it?" So I thought, well, this will be fun. Let's give this a go. So for the first time I'd ever dealt with a national newspaper, and I sort of really the story from my side is really winging it. The story of
it's the only way to do it.
Winging it against in the face of.
It was the sun what got him.
It was the sun what got him. You're right. But yeah, so I winged it, and I winged it rather well, and managed to negotiate. Well, it's become the most expensive operation that any newspaper has ever done. It's so expensive that at the Sun it's called the Great Claims Robbery because they've been paying for it for many years.
Did you find out secrets about the train robbery on these nights with Bruce?
Yeah, I think that there's most of the stuff on the train robbery's been said, and the areas
the man that hit the driver.
That's something I really don't think that I'd be really overly comfortable in discussing. But what I would say that's really important is when Bruce planned this robbery, nobody was planned to be injured. Bruce deeply, and the other train robbers were on, and everybody deeply regretted.
But there were violent people probably involved.
They were by nature. By nature, if you're a thief, you know, you're more likely to be violent.
Well, Ronnie Biggs wasn't a violent man, was he?
No, and he really wasn't a thief in many ways. He was sort of more of a petty criminal, and he was brought along because he knew an engine driver, and he was the only person they knew who knew somebody.
Right.
He knew a man who could drive a train.
And he lived after this. He lived his entire life out of the the country, didn't he? Went to Brazil.
Well, he
lived
escaped.
a life.
He escaped
Yeah,
Wormwood and then went via Australia, ended up in Brazil. There was an attempt by the SAS. I succeeded where the SAS failed. There was an attempt by the SAS to bring him back. They failed.
And then he had
succeeded.
Michael, and that meant in Brazilian law he could be extradited.
Absolutely, yeah. He was the father of a Brazilian child.
Yeah.
And
Michael came on the show, didn't he?
Yeah, Michael came
he's
on,
very
nice
good,
guy.
lovely.
When
boy.
he was very ill, wasn't he? And he was saying get him out of prison. He came on to talk about
Yeah,
that.
he is. I think he is an Michael is an absolute credit.
Did Ronnie know when you? I mean, obviously, perhaps if the SAS had the money you managed to get, they might have had more luck. Who knows?
Well, there's an very interesting SAS story which has never come out, which is really interesting. Which is on the day we were at Northolt when Ron landed, and I think the Times described it as looking like Hannibal Lecter had come back. There was 160 police and one armed division of the military for Ron, who frankly struggled to walk more than 20 feet. And at the briefing before he landed, as I sat round the table, and Commander Coles, who was in charge of it, was introducing all the different parties. And as we went around the table, there was these two guys sitting there in sort of your black classic gear, and this is blah blah blah, this is blah, and he got to them and he went, this is the special forces if we have to storm the plane. And we were just like, what on earth are you talking? You're talking about an 80-year-old man with multiple strokes.
Well,
and
why
heart
would he be
attack.
coming back if suddenly he wants to escape?
I know. We sort of
Ridiculous.
said that. You know, we haven't come all the way back to not get off the plane. And in the end, I actually had to talk them down. I said, we'll contact the plane, tell them to turn around unless these people leave the airfield, because if you have them here, somebody will die. If they get deployed, somebody will die because of the shock, because this isn't necessary. You know, we haven't come all this way back to refuse to get off the plane.
Did he realise, do you think, that coming back he would spend
absolutely
so much time in...
Absolutely. But I have to say that as I visited him in Belmarsh, and the whole operation was really much more like a carry-on movie meets the Italian Job. I think there is some discussion on a movie being made of the return of
I mean,
Ronnie Biggs.
we talked about it quite a lot, and yes, it was a terrible thing they did, and somebody did die from it, and everything.
Oh no, James, I'm going to pull you there. No one died from it.
Okay.
Jack Mills died 10 years later from leukemia, and the coroner
All
went
right.
to the
Okay.
extent
Yes, you do make a good point, but the idea that you had to handcuff this man to his hospital bed, that they needed everything that you've spoken about, seems to me to be the most ridiculous and rather embarrassing way for the authorities.
Well, they were making a show, weren't they? Because he'd basically escaped his sentence.
And they hadn't got him back.
And Belmarsh is a wicked prison.
Kevin had bought them back.
Belmarsh is a wicked prison to put an elderly gentleman in.
And he'd had a stroke and he could hardly talk.
Multiple, he had to be fed. No, he couldn't talk at all. He'd sort of speak and spell, literally, and food via the stomach.
We could talk to you for a long time. We're going to run out of time. And I apologise to callers that we didn't get back to, and hopefully we can talk to you next week. But tell me about this whole business. You used to manage a guy called Bobby Beausoleil?
Bobby Beausoleil.
Yeah.
So, for those not initiated, Bobby Beausoleil was...
Hang on, let me just check this. Do you know who he...
No, I don't know.
Right, okay.
Bobby Beausoleil...
Yeah, wasn't he from the Manson family?
I see you looking at a few notes there to recognise that. Bobby Beausoleil was one of the Manson family, and he was also the first person convicted in the Manson killings.
Was he sentenced to death?
He was sentenced to death originally, commuted to life after they repealed the death sentence in America, and now he's a long-term inmate at the Oregon State Penitentiary.
And was he an actual... Did he commit...
Yes, he did.
Because, like, Manson didn't, did he?
No, Manson didn't. No, it's very interesting. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah. And there is actually an argument that Manson didn't order anybody. Yeah. It's really... by association, by thought, by
Didn't he think the Beach Boy guy who'd fallen out with who was living there, and in fact he'd rented it out to Polanski and Tate?
Okay, in the briefest possible terms, because I know you're desperately short of time on this, I would tell you that...
he'd been snubbed by the Beach Boy.
No, I will tell you that is completely wrong, and the truth of it is a lot simpler, and the Manson family murders are much more to do with drugs robberies.
Right.
And it's a reverse conspiracy theory. Instead of the...
But he was a bit like, you know...
Tell me, when you spoke to this guy and you went and he was, I believe, the only person ever allowed to walk freely in the maximum security prison without
that's terrifying.
chains. Really?
Yeah, absolutely terrifying. So what happened is I'd gone to see Bobby and we were going to work on some recordings with rap artists, which were going to be for anti-gangs. So it was going to be basically a lot of the rappers who were in penitentiary, sort of basically doing rap material, saying, look, it's not big and clever, I'm in penitentiary, don't make my errors. So that was the aim of it. And I'd booked to go over there. I'd got permission from the penitentiary governor, and the initial date that I'd got had to be cancelled because there was a murder within the penitentiary, quite a gruesome one, so it went into lockdown, so the date was moved back. And then I ultimately went and saw him at the penitentiary, arrived. You are given a form to fill in when you arrive at the penitentiary, or I was, and the opening line on the form is, whilst you're at the penitentiary, there's a very real threat you'll be taken as a hostage. In the event you're taken as a hostage, your life will not be traded for the release of the prisoner. And you've signed 5 pages of it saying they're going to shoot you. If basically something goes wrong, they're shooting you, nobody's coming out. And then the governor... Charming. And then the governor very kindly told me, he said, we haven't got enough staff today, so what we're going to do is we're going to allow you to wander freely, stick to the rooms with the cameras, and if you're taken hostage or anything goes wrong, we'll try and send a squad in to get you out.
No guarantee.
No guarantee. Stick with Bobby and you should be all right.
Yeah.
But... and so I was given a level of access that was quite phenomenal.
How did you feel about that?
I was absolutely terrified on one level. Okay, it varies. When I first arrived, you go through a number of doors where there is literally a shotgun goes into your face. You have to show a special pass. They withdraw the shotgun. You're allowed to proceed constantly. And then there was, as you go past some of the cells, there's a lot of catcalling and sexually gesturing to you, which is a little bit unnerving.
Like Hannibal Lecter film.
Very much like that, but a little bit more extreme even than that.
Yeah.
And then once I'd got to Bobby and the people I was with, they were terribly sweet. They got tea bags for me. They knew I was British and I would like a cup of tea. They'd hidden them and everything. So.
And what did he say? Because I'm literally down to my last 2 minutes. What did he say about the whole series?
He deeply regretted the murder, and he admitted to me straight away that he'd done it. And if he hadn't admitted,
which murders was he involved in?
He murdered Gary Hinman. It's the very first of the Manson murders, so it starts the whole chain.
And he will never come out of prison.
Highly unlikely, and particularly in the way that the Americans view the Mansons. It's much more like we would view the Moors murderers in this country.
Never coming out.
Never.
I visited Reggie Cray in prison.
Yep.
And he knew he was never coming out. He was totally institutionalised. And I visited him.
They let him out for the last week or something.
I visited him probably 3 or 4 years before the end.
Yeah.
What was it? How did he come to terms with that? It's a really strange situation with these people.
It's a really difficult one. Bobby had got married in prison. I mean, that's one of the things. You do find, like in many of these cases, there are people attracted to prisoners within certain circumstances.
Plenty of that,
so Bobby had got married. He'd built as big a relationship as he could. He'd actually built recording studios there.
I think the human condition is
we're going to invite you back.
We're
going to invite you back sometime to talk about this and lots of other conspiracy theories and people you've met.
Yeah.
We haven't even touched on Kylie Minogue, but there we are.
We did the Highgate Vampire, didn't we?
Yeah, we did the Highgate Vampire, listen, we're back Monday, hopefully at 7 o'clock on Monday.
Well,
Can you
I
make
might not be. Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's Yom Kippur, isn't it, James? I mean,
for goodness
sake. You can't mess about. I think it is Monday, yeah.
No,
I'll
well,
check.
You can come in anyway. In the meantime, Ian Lee is next, and you have a great weekend. Good evening. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Well, I'm here, yeah.
No, you look.